Hi, in this video we're going to give you some tips on how to build your new dresser. Before we get started, just a couple reminders. First, make sure you have a Phillips head screwdriver ready to go. Next, another person can be helpful in putting this together. And third, just be sure all the pieces are facing the right way when you're putting it together, and you're going to do great. So with that in mind, let's get into it.
Remember, in these tips we won't cover every step, so just make sure you also follow the instructions and do all the steps in between.
On steps 4 and 5, we're going to be showing you how to attach the sliders to the pieces. So for step 4, we have pieces 3 and 2. And when you attach the sliders, you want to make sure that you have them flush with the wooden plank that's underneath, and also that it extends this way towards this side of the piece. And then on piece 5, you're going to have one side where they're completely flush with the edge of the piece. And then on the other side, you will have a small gap between the edge of the slider and the edge of the piece. So don't worry that they don't match up completely, this is correct. And once you have all of those sliders on, you're good to move on to the next step. For steps 8 and 9, we have a couple tips just to make putting the frame together go a little bit easier. So you want to start by putting each of the side pieces on first. And with this, you want to make sure that you have the sliders so they go up, and the cam lock holes are facing the top of the piece and not the bottom. And then you'll just go ahead and put these in until they're nice and snug, but don't tighten them yet. And then once you have both of those sides on, you can go ahead and start putting in the center beams. And with this, you want to make sure that you have these cam lock holes facing forwards. So we can go ahead and fit that on. We'll just lean the pieces out a little bit so they can slide in place. And then we'll do the same with the other one. And don't worry if those aren't flush yet, we'll be getting to that in the next step. So we can go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. And then once you have all 4 of these beams on, you can go ahead and put on this bottom beam. And when you're putting this on, you just want to be sure that you have all of these little holes along the top facing upwards. Once you have everything mostly secured, then you can go ahead and put in all of your cam locks and the screw on the bottom right here. All right, and once you have all of those cam locks in, then you're good to move on to the next step. In this step, we're going to be going over building and assembling the drawers. So the first tip that you want to be aware of is making sure that you have all of the exact same size pieces for each drawer. So you'll see right here that these pieces are the same size, so that way you know that they all go together. And we have the small drawer, the medium, and then the large drawer. And so when we're putting the drawer together, you want to stand it up so that this groove is on the bottom edge. And then we'll do the same thing for both of these side pieces with the groove on the bottom and facing inwards. And then we can screw that together. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and do the same thing on the other side, once again with this groove on the bottom and facing inwards. Okay, and then once we have both of those sides on, we can go ahead and slide in this bottom panel. So you'll just want to make sure you have it with this finished side up. We'll go ahead and slide it in, making sure it gets into all of the grooves on each of the pieces. Okay, and you just make sure that that fits into all of the grooves on the whole piece. We can go ahead and set that back down and put the back panel on. And we'll just line this groove right here up with the bottom panel. And then we can go ahead and put the screws into this back piece as well. All right, and once you have all 4 of those screws in, then we can go ahead and put the handle onto the front. You just want to make sure it overhangs like this. Then we can put the screws in. And once we're all done with that, then we're going to put the sliders on. And with the sliders, you want to make sure that you have this closed edge facing the front of the drawer and the open side facing the back. And when you put these screws in, you're going to be putting them into the solid hold here, the horizontal one, and then this vertical one. So we'll just go ahead and line that up with those screws and put that on. And if those holes aren't quite matching up for you, you can just go ahead and line them up with the height of the holes, and then make sure it's nice and flush with the front of the door, and then just drill it into those same holes I mentioned, and you'll be just fine. And if for whatever reason, when you insert this drawer, if they're overlapping just a little bit, or maybe grinding some when you try and open the drawer, there's a really easy fix for that. So you can just go ahead and loosen this front screw here, and you can slide this slider up and down, and that'll adjust the front of your drawer. Once you've gotten a good spot, you can go ahead and tighten that back up, and you should be all done. We hope this video was helpful for you in your assembly and that you enjoy your new dresser.